Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys quarter scale figure unboxing and review video. That's right, today we're taking a look at none other than the deluxe special edition version of the quarter scale Spider-Man tech suit from Spider-Man Homecoming. I personally am really excited. I remember laying eyes on this thing for the first time at the various conventions, and I fell in love. I never knew I wanted a quarter scale Spidey until Hot Toys said, well, here it is, what do you think? And yeah, I was really darn impressed. I cannot wait to get this guy out of the box. Now, I picked up mine from toyswonderland.com. The link for that is, of course, down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here, of course, we have the box art for Spidey. Just like all of the other quarter scale figures, we have a big honkin' image of Spidey's face right up here in the front of the box, and a quarter scale logo, both of which are actually separate raised items. I did see some people complaining online that they cheaped out on the packaging by not doing a 3D raised element. I don't know what gave them that impression, because they definitely did it here. You can also see that in the lenses there is this real textured image, so you can feel the lenses themselves. It's not just a print, although it is glossy and it looks fantastic against the matte hex pattern of the rest of the box. I really like this box artwork, as simple as it is. Now, this box is surprisingly quite thick, and that's to accommodate the big honkin' Vulture wing display base. Now, we do have the relevant legal information on the back. Let's get this guy out here. I have been super excited ever since Hot Toys announced they were doing a quarter scale Spidey. I don't exactly know why they chose to do the Homecoming version though, because this suit has been switched out for the upgraded suit in the MCU. If they were going to do one suit, in my opinion, the upgraded suit would have been the way to go, but nevertheless, I'm not complaining. I'm still really excited to have this guy in hand. And here we have him. I often forget how big quarter scale figures are, but yeah, this guy is a big boy. Now, as you can see, he does come with one tray here up on top. That is, of course, foam. Another one down below. There are actually two more underneath that. So what we are going to do now is get all of Spider-Man's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look and everything he comes with. And here we have everything that comes with the deluxe special edition version of Homecoming Spidey. Now, I did make that designation because some of this stuff won't come with the regular version. Now, most of the added pieces are for the display base because, as you can see, there are various different configurations. This might just be one of the biggest Hot Toys instruction manuals that I personally have ever seen. I'm just going to show you the regular display base in this clip, and then in an upcoming clip later in the video, we'll see the various different options for how you can use the components on the display base. And here is that base. Number one, it's a very heavy and sturdy item. This, I believe, was sculpted by Studio Hive, and they did an amazing job. It looks outstanding. You can see it's got various thrusters and other bits and pieces, which do have these light effects on the base itself. However, it does actually have a proper working light up effect. As you can see, when I hit the switch, we do have the Vulture's eyes, these stairs are lit up, and the various little thruster/energy gem sections light up as well. Now, the cool thing with this is Hot Toys includes an AC to USB cable. So yes, if you do want to have it powered on all the time, you can simply just plug it in the back there and have it fully powered. I really like that option. But if you don't want to, you can also use AAA batteries. It actually has a second power mode. When you hit it, they sort of flash on and off. It's a little bit weird, and I personally don't think I'll be going with that, but you do have two different options for the light up effect on the base there. Now, let's talk about the size and shape of the base itself. If you're just getting the standard one, it's a little bit hard to work with because, of course, this is the crotch grabber. Where is Spidey supposed to stand? Certainly not up here. I mean, you could, but then you wouldn't really be able to use this stand because it would be in front of him. I guess they want you to put him down here. Then you've got a bunch of wasted space on the base itself. I think when this base gets combined with all of the other various pieces, then it really starts to make sense. Now we may as well talk about those other various pieces, because just look at it. This is a section of the Vulture's wing in quarter scale. It is huge, and it is absolutely stunning. Look at the sculpted detail and also all of the gorgeous paint applications. Plus, you do have a moving thruster section, which I didn't really expect them to do. This could have just been a fixed, solid hunk of plastic, but no, it does have proper moving sections. You will see this fully combined with the display base, as I said, in an upcoming clip. Now, you do get this panel piece with the deluxe version. This basically can be used in multiple different ways. You can see all of these different ports. You can use this as a base topper or as a piece to go in the background. It also has this Vulture style motif with a bunch of scratching and pitting, and it looks stunning as well. Now, the only other pieces that we have for the display base, don't worry, we'll get to the good stuff in just a second, are these added little strut sections. They will plug on and you'll see how that looks in just a second. Next up, we may as well take a look at the Spidey Mask, because this thing looks stunning. You will of course see this on the figure, don't worry about that, but the material texture is awesome. It looks very accurate to the film, and the eyes do have the swap out gimmick. To activate it, you simply push the corner and then they do pop out. They are magnetically attached, but for some reason the magnets aren't the strongest in the world. You can also see that the lenses are double layered. There's a white hex pattern on the inside, then a glossy section over the top. They look stunning. Now, to go along with the mask, we do get various different eye options. We've got the big wide open ones, all the way down to the instant kill ones. I probably will be going with just these ones, just the basic Spidey ones. Those ones, I think, are my favorite for now. Let's talk about the Spidey Tom Holland head sculpt, because this has had a lot of debate in the community over the recent days. I have to say, in person, seeing this, I think it looks fantastic. I can see Tom Holland's likeness through and through. The paint applications, being a quarter scale piece, are second to none. The skin texture looks great. The hair looks awesome. And when we put this on the body, you'll see what I mean. This thing just comes to life. It looks fantastic. The only real complaint I do have is, for some reason on mine, there's just a little teeny tiny brown freckle there. I don't know if that's accurate to Tom Holland. None of my other 1/6 scale head sculpts have that. It's just a little bit weird that they decided to do that. I do think it may be a paint error. Next up, he does of course come with a backpack. The cool thing about a quarter scale backpack with real working zips and compartments is you can use it to store some of Spidey's accessories. That is just genius. It does come with some padding out of the box just to give it a little bit more form, and of course you can have Spidey wearing it. It wouldn't be a Spider-Man figure without some webs. These are pretty much the 1/6 scale webs, upscaled to quarter scale, except they've also included this section, which is basically a joiner. You can attach it to the ends of two webs and create an extra long one. I really like that. It's something they didn't need to do, and we've never seen before, but I'm really impressed with it. So too am I with the funnel web. This is really nicely sculpted. It's a little bit more dynamic with these sort of spooled up sections, unlike the 1/6 scale versions, which don't usually have that. There's also a silver paint application over various sections of it. Now let's talk about some of the smaller pieces, starting with the Spidey Drone. You might be thinking, Justin, what on earth is that thing up the front? Well, this is the chest logo that you can interchange on Spidey when the drone has been deployed. And then, when you are not using it, Hot Toys have had the foresight to include this little clip on the display base that you can peg it in there. So when you take off the just standard one from Spidey, pop it on the base, and then pop this one on the suit. But the little drone looks awesome. His legs are a little bit thick. Of course, it's a small, teeny tiny version. If they were accurately thin, they would 100% be breaking. You do have a metal pole coming down to the clear display base. It's a really neat little piece, and I'm glad they threw it in here. Now, if you get the special edition version of the deluxe, you do get these added accessories, being of course this sort of projection of kind of like a home screen for Spidey with the various different commands, and you also do get this, which is the projected map. you can't really see it as clearly on camera and in person because of this sort of lenticular effect. It's a little bit hard to make out, but there is definitely a teeny tiny multicolored little cityscape inside that dome there. It's a neat little accessory, and I'm glad that I got it, although I don't think I personally will be using it. You do also get a phone with Ned calling, and you can see it's actually a multi-layered thing. The print for the screen is underneath a glass, or in this instance, plastic section, so it looks like a real phone screen. There is no detail on the rest of it, it's literally just a black hunk of plastic, but I'm glad that they have given it a little bit of dimension with that screen itself. And if you did want to make it accurate to the various films, you could go ahead and crack it, because of course, as Spidey progresses throughout his career, his phone gets more and more damaged. You also do get a removed mask. Before you ask, no, you cannot pop it on that head sculpt. This is just meant to be held in his hand. It's made of the same material as the suit, so you can see how flexible and stretchy the suit material really is. No, those eyes cannot be detached. The final things that I want to talk about are the web wings and then the hands. These are actually made out of a really weird feeling material. It's more of a rubber style piece with the various magnetic sections. Unlike the 1/6 scale ones, which some people compared to tortilla chips. These are nice and soft, and they feel like what you'd expect a web wing to feel like. The detail is great on there, but they are just flat, rubbery pieces. You will see these on Spidey later on in the video. Lastly, he does of course come with a bunch of hands. They are really nicely sculpted, and the web patterns are actually indented into the suit itself. Plus, the web shooter activator is on all of the palms. What we are going to do now, though, is get Spidey himself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And yeah, so far I am in love with the way this guy looks. What is so special about this Spidey, Justin, I hear you asking? Well, keen-eyed viewer, there are a couple of things which Hot Toys nailed, and we'll be discussing it at length in the very next clip. But right off the bat, the suit looks stunning. It looks super accurate. The material choices are on point. What that means for articulation, though, we'll find out later on in the video. The body choice looks awesome as well. He looks super realistic. And finally, they've worked wonders on the Spidey head sculpt. It looks spot on. For some reason, some of the other 1/6 scale ones looked a little bit goofy, but not this guy. He looks awesome. Simply just standing there in the lightbox, this looks like a real person, and I'm super impressed with that. Let me know though what you think of this Spidey so far down in the comments below. And here we have him up close and personal. Now I know it's still early on in the review, but I'm going to call it already. This is my favorite Spidey figure in pretty much any scale, for some key reasons. First of all, take a look at the body. That looks like a real person. The proportions are so dialed in that it's tricking the eye. To me, he looks like an actual living person in a suit. That's how realistic this figure looks. Let's talk about why that's the case. First of all, take a look at all of the musculature underneath the suit itself. You can actually see the collarbone, the traps, the abs. It really does a convincing job of looking like an actual person. Even subtle things like the slight bump to the ear sections to make it look like an actual human head is underneath this mask. It's something that they didn't quite nail, in my opinion, on the 1/6 scale versions. The heads always looked a little bit weird in terms of the shape. For the quarter scale one, it's totally a non-issue. They've also pretty much eliminated that weird bump on the top of his head. You do still have a tiny one right there, but the stitching starts way back towards the rear of the mask, and there's a little bit more down the sides here. This, in my opinion, is the very best Hot Toys Spidey head sculpt that I personally have ever seen. And it's covered in material. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. Usually, I prefer the sculpted ones. Now let's talk about the material choices here. The red feels almost identical to the 1/6 scale tech suit Spidey. That's a good thing. It moves well, it's nice and stretchy, and the detail is fantastic on it. You can see there is definitely a texture on there, and then the black sections are adhered over the top. The blue sections are where you're going to have to worry about creasing and maybe damage over time, because it feels like this rubbery style material. Although, because the figure is a larger boy, being a quarter scale item, hopefully it holds up a little bit better than in 1/6 scale. I've already done a few poses off camera and put him back to stock. There aren't any creases whatsoever in the leg areas. Hopefully it remains that way. But the detail on the blue sections looks exceptional as well. The print is really clean and very, very accurate. Before we move on to the shoes, because there's something we have to talk about here, let's talk about the rest of the suit. The Spider logo looks fantastic, both front and back, of course. You do have the little cartridges on the belt, which are really nicely done. They are a separate item, and they do move around with the suit. As you can see, they've got a little bit of flex to them when you do go about your posing. The web shooters are also separate pieces, so yes, you can swivel them around and pull them down to close the gap on the wrists. We have pretty much seen this design for web shooters a bunch of times before from Hot Toys. They've just upscaled it for the quarter scale version here. Now, let's talk about the shoes themselves. They look great, although, as you can see, I'm still having that same issue that the 1/6 scale figures have with the ankle eating the suit. You can pull it up and then it hides it just a little bit, but it's still there. You can see it sort of dips in at the ankle joint. It's not ideal. I don't know how Hot Toys didn't fix this for the quarter scale version. It does afford a little bit more range of motion, but when do you ever really have Spidey's foot going up like that? I would much rather a little bit of padding there to eliminate that weird gapping issue. And of course, finally, we do have some detail on the underside of his shoes. But yeah, overall, even though there are a couple of complaints here and there, by and large, I'm still really impressed with quarter scale Spidey here. Now, just quickly before we move on, I wanted to show you what the Tom Holland head sculpt looks like on the body, because it looks fantastic. This, in my opinion, might just be Hot Toys' best attempt to date at a Tom Holland likeness. Some of the initial Hot Toys blogger pictures didn't really paint this head sculpt in the best light, in my opinion, and I was worried that it was going to be lackluster. But, as you can see, not only does it look fantastic on the body, but it's really well sculpted and really well painted. I can see Tom Holland in this sculpt 110%. It looks absolutely astounding. And coupled with the super realistic proportions of the body, it literally looks like a real quarter scale version of Tom Holland as Spider-Man standing on the shelf. I know, it's crazy to say that because it's just a figure, but no, it is that impressive. The only complaint that I do have is that Hot Toys didn't include a faux neck cover piece to make it look like he does when he removes his mask in the film. His regular flesh neck is poking out just above the collar of the suit here, whereas on figure format, they didn't really do that, and his suit neck kind of goes into his head. Obviously, that wouldn't be possible. Even with that though, I still really like this sculpt and I love the way it sits on the body. And here we have Spidey with his web wings attached. These weren't actually the easiest in the world to get on there. The magnets aren't really the strongest that I've seen Hot Toys ever use, but once they are on there, they look pretty darn awesome. They do have the accurate translucency, they are a softer material, so when you do go posing Spidey and moving him about, they should naturally bow and flex into the correct position. Just make sure when you are applying them, you have hit all of the magnets, because as you can see, it's relatively easy to not get them attached properly. They do remove nice and easily as well, just because those magnets are embedded under the suit itself. Is it the best implementation of the web wings in the world? I don't personally think the material choice here being really thin and flexible to get the accurate feel was worth the trade-off of them not looking and fitting 100% correctly. Just because they aren't rigid, it's a little bit challenging to get them in the right position. I do love the way they look and the way they feel in hand, but I think that if they'd gone with a sturdier style plastic, it would have had the same or very similar look, but also worked just a little bit better. Just going over articulation on quarter scale Spidey. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt itself, it is on a fixed neck, just like all of the other Spidey figures we've already seen in 1/6 scale. However, it does actually move in terms of at the base of the neck itself, so you do get a little bit of added range of motion, forward, back, swivel, and pivot side to side. The arms themselves will go out to about there, pretty much the full way. You do get them going forward pretty much the full way as well. It's worth noting that pretty much all the joints throughout Spidey here are ratchet joints, so they are really nice and sturdy. We do have a butterfly joint at the shoulder and a swivel as well, a double bend at the elbow, and a regular quarter scale style wrist peg. Now for the torso, we do have swivel, pivot, and crunch forward and back, which does afford you a pretty massive range of motion. The legs themselves go forward on extremely strong ratchets to about there. They go out to about there. There is a swivel, which is also ratcheted at the thigh, a double bend at the knee, which will go a little bit further than that, and finally a ratcheted joint down here at the ankle, which incorporates another swivel ratchet, and of course, being Spider-Man, we do get a little bit of toe articulation. Now I quickly want to take a moment to talk about the display base and its 5 different configurations. Yes, you heard that right. There are 5 different setups for this base. At the end, you will see Spidey standing on the base. Sometimes when I show these diorama pieces and then don't show the figure on there, people get a little bit upset. So don't worry, you will be seeing Spidey on this base. Here is configuration A, or just the regular version. If you get the standard Spidey, I believe this is the base that you will be getting. It lights up, it looks fantastic, there are various components scattered around the base, and a little bit of a vulture wing, just a suggestion of one poking up from the side there. Is this my favorite one? Well, it is the simplest, but as you saw in the accessory segment, it's a little bit challenging to decide where you're going to place Spidey's feet. So I don't think this one I'm going to be going with in my display. I think one of the other options might be the way I personally am going to go. And here we have option B. This one has that wing piece that was previously on the side, now up on top, so it kind of looks like a vulture wing is coming around over the top to engulf Spidey. I really like the way this one looks. It also provides you a back wall, so you can either have Spidey climbing it or jumping off it. It just gives you a little bit more of a dynamic look, whereas the other one was a really awesome diorama piece, but it wasn't as exciting as this one, I personally think. So yes, I could potentially use this one in the display, but I'm not going to say that just yet, because the ones that are coming up get even more exciting than this one right here. And here we have option C, which is very similar to option B, except this time we have another greebly type piece up on the side, and the wing has been relocated back to the bottom. This one would be really good for those previously mentioned wall crawling poses, because you don't have that wing coming over the top to bump on Spidey's noggin. So yes, it is almost identical to option B, but just with a little bit more room for Spidey to go crazy with the posing. And here we have option D. This might be my favorite so far. I love the way this looks. We've got this enormous vulture wing coming up the back there, and another vulture wing just out the side. I really love the way this one looks. It's even more dynamic than some of the previous ones. Plus, it does add a lot of height, so if you want a massive show-stopping piece in your display, this is one of the setups that can definitely do it for you. Granted, the Spidey is awesome in his own right, but when you couple him with this display base, especially in this config, he looks even more outstanding. And here we have the final base option being Mode E. I kinda wish the names for these were more exciting than just A, B, C, D, E, but nevertheless, I love this one. It's my personal favorite for a couple of reasons. Number one, all of the pieces are incorporated. You've got the massive vulture wing, you've got the other one out the side, but this time you have a nice, flat, stable base for Spidey to stand on up top. You also have another section to screw in the dynamic flight pole now relocated to the back left of that top panel. That way it's not in the middle, which is a little bit hard and tricky to work with. This, in my opinion, is the best base option, and the one that I personally am going to be going with. It is unfortunately the tallest, but this is a massive centerpiece for any Spidey display, so I can't really complain about it. I'm absolutely loving the way this display base is so modular, and of course the way it works with Spidey. And finally, here of course we have Spidey atop the display base. My favorite configuration being of course the last one. I reckon this looks fantastic. I have him grabbing onto Vulture's wing there, stabilizing himself, so I don't have to use a dynamic flight pole. But you can make it look even more dynamic and even more exciting. Who cares what I think though? I want to know what you think. So head down to the comments and let me know which base configuration was your favorite and what kind of posing ideas you have for when you get your Spidey, if indeed you have ordered him. I love this piece, I love this base, it comes together so very well. It's almost in like a Prime 1 statue level for me. That's how show-stopping this Spidey looks when you pop him on this base. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing, and I know you're probably sick of hearing me say it, but it's the ankles, how the suit tucks in. Superman has this issue in 1/6 scale, and so do pretty much all of the Spidey figures. Until we got to the Far From Home movie promo version of this suit in 1/6 scale, where they eliminated this issue completely. I don't know why it's back here on the quarter scale figure. You can pull the suit up and out of the joint, or simply angle the ankle down, but even then, it kind of looks a little bit funky. I think Hot Toys need to spend just a little bit more time on the ankle design for their Spidey figures to get it to look 100% perfect. The second annoying thing is the way these little gadgets attach onto the figure. As you can see, it's not overly secure, it's extremely flimsy, and when you do install them on there, they don't sit perfectly flush or straight either, specifically this one. It's far too heavy, so it sort of springs around, and I am worried that that tiny little peg there will break over time. This one fares a little bit better, but only just marginally so. It's still a little bit cumbersome to use, it sits quite a distance from the body, and honestly, I don't think I can ever see myself personally using this item or the holographic map. And I bet you knew this was coming. The third annoying thing is that we still don't have a skin neck cap to go over the top of the suit, so it looks like his actual neck when he's not wearing the mask. It's something that third-party and customizers have nailed. But for some reason, Hot Toys, even though they give us these absolutely gorgeously designed suits, still haven't decided to give us a very simple piece of plastic that can slot over the neck and give us the illusion of Tom Holland having actually removed the mask. The sculpt itself is awesome, but that little neck piece right there could have really set this guy over the top. The first cool thing is that Hot Toys have given us an alternate power method to power our display base. We don't just have to use batteries, we can use the included USB cable to have this thing permanently lit up, and that's a good thing. Trust me, when this thing is lit up, it looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'm really glad that Hot Toys gave us something as simple as an alternate power method for the base, because we definitely have seen them opt to not do stuff like this with other releases. The second cool thing is the body for Spidey here. It really does look that darn good. I know I've already gushed about it earlier on in the video, but it looks fantastic. You can see all of the musculature underneath the suit itself, and you can get the arms really nice and flat down by his sides. I know Dean Knight will be happy about that, because most other Spidey figures sort of max out at about that distance from the body, but not this guy. You can get them really nice and flat. It's a very natural looking and feeling body when you go to pose him in hand, and I really love the choice here by Hot Toys. The third cool thing has to do with the Spidey logo, because of course you can remove the chest logo, then bring in the alternate one. Say for instance he has deployed Droney, that's what the chest logo would look like. It's a nice chrome silver, and it's a swap out piece. They 110% didn't need to do this. I've seen Spidey figures come with Droney from other companies, and then they didn't do this. So I'm super glad that Hot Toys said, no. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, engineer a port on the center of the chest, figure out a way to get the suit to sit perfectly around it, and make that chest logo swap out. I'm really glad they did that. It's the little things that set this guy over the top. Just wrapping up on the Hot Toys quarter scale Spidey. Now, going into this review, I didn't really know what to expect because Hot Toys haven't made any quarter scale Spider-Man figures before this release. However, even though this is their first one, they nailed it. They took all of the things they learned about making 1/6 scale Spider-Man, which, by the way, are awesome in their own right, and applied it here. Plus, they went all out with a full custom body, and it looks phenomenal. You can see all of the musculature poking through the suit material. It looks like a literal, real person is standing here in the lightbox. It's kind of scary how realistic this looks. Plus, the head sculpt is awesome. The base is a showstopper. Let's be honest, I mean, it's a big honkin' Vulture diorama base with multiple different configurations. It lights up, he comes with a ton of accessories, and the articulation is pretty darn good as well. This guy can do some amazing poses. So yes, if you are on the fence, I absolutely recommend getting off the damn fence and picking this guy up before he sells out. And if you would like to do that, he is in stock right now with toyswonderland.com in all of the various different flavors. There are, I think, 4 different versions of this Spidey, so make sure you choose wisely. The link for that is, of course, down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. If you are heading down to the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.